Good afternoon, everyone. This is Vadeesh, founder and CEO of AlgoShack. You know, development, application development, at one point in time used to be manual, resource intensive, time consuming, and also was error prone. There used to be test gaps, and there used to be incidents in production. Now, with the evolution of AI, so much has changed. Coding takes no time, and people are able to ship volumes of code in no time. There would still be test gaps. In my mind, the test gaps would only be multiplied. If steps are not taken to make testing a lot more effective, to test the voluminous code that is arriving in no time. So that is the topic for today, from code to confidence. And with me are Chandrashekhar Patil, Vice President Quality Assurance at redBus, and Sobhitha Neelanath, Senior Manager Software Engineering at Salesforce. Welcome, Chandrashekhar and Sobhitha.
Thank you.
To introduce Chandrashekhar, Chandrashekhar is an engineering leader with 20 plus years of experience, specializing in building and scaling high-performing quality engineering teams across startups and enterprise environments. His diverse domain expertise covers semiconductors, consumer electronics, AV streaming, EV, and travel tech. In his current role at redBus, he is actively transforming traditional quality engineering into an AI-driven practice. Welcome, Chandrashekhar.
Thank you.
Sobhitha Neelanath is a senior technology leader with extensive experience building and scaling high-performing engineering teams across virtualization, security, CRM, storage, SaaS, and enterprise platforms at Wipro, McAfee, EMC, Dell Technologies, and now Salesforce. Heading the Agentforce Service Quality Engineering India at Salesforce, she is helping shape the quality and reliability of AI-powered customer experience at global scale and driving engineering excellence through innovation, operational rigor, and people-first leadership. Beyond her job role, she is a passionate mentor, international speaker, and committed to creating more inclusive pathways for the next generation of technology leaders. Recognized by multiple platforms for her mentoring and evangelism to support working professionals and students, Sobhitha has become a trusted voice at the intersection of engineering excellence, AI innovation, and leadership. Welcome, Sobhitha. Mahesh Venkatraman was supposed to be with us. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it as he had a medical emergency. We hope to have him with us in our next fireside chat. So I'll move on to the main agenda for today, that is discussion on this code to confidence topic. I'll start off with the first question. AI can now generate huge volumes of code in very little time. From a testing perspective, what changes when the speed and volume of code increases so dramatically? Chandrashekhar, your perspectives. Please.
Yeah, so see, traditionally, like for example, we just take the backend testing, right? So the way we would test is primarily you would have API testing and then functional testing, use case testing. I think now that the IDs have become much more advanced, right? So the way to look at it is to offload some of the activities that QA would do into the development, which is actually shift left, right? And shift left in the sense of moving the traditional basic API testing to the developers, and QA gets to focus more on the functional flows, the edge cases, the user scenarios. So in such by doing such things, what happens is we are able to catch up with the speed. Second is we also get a lot of time to figure out what are the edge cases that really matter, right? So I think moving from mundane API testing to use case based testing is where we need to scale. And of course, with AI, test case generation has become much more easier. Test generation of code is one of the aspects, right? I think what fundamentally has to now evolve is how do we look at the test cases themselves, because it's no longer static cases that we need to look at. So to really scale up testing, these two things need to be powered by AI, but then also we need to look at the user data and leverage that for our test execution. I think that is important.
And when you talk about use cases, you mean mostly coming from end user perspective?
Correct. So I think every company now has a goldmine of analytics. So how do we leverage that to smartly test the flows that really matter to the user? So I think as a use case, I think everybody follows a Pareto principle. While you have 100 features, 20 of them are most used. So how do you focus on that rather than trying to test out everything, right? And that you would get from a lot of analytics, because a lot of analytics is now captured to take business decisions, look at how features are performing, etc. Right? So in all such cases, I think user data powering your test cases itself is going to be a big asset.
Yeah, I think with the evolution, we also have access to the analytics. Probably that wasn't available a while ago.
And also AI makes it a lot more easier to make sense of it now.
Yeah.
Because the resources that required to make sense of it were just with the business analysts. Now that is open for everybody to leverage.
Absolutely. Thank you. So your perspectives?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with whatever Chandrashekhar told. Just adding a little bit of other perspectives from my experience, especially with in Salesforce. We have a specific customer-centric quality team, and I head that team. So what we do here is totally focus on these end-to-end user workflows, customer workflows. We call them as critical user journeys. So as much as I agree that all the basic API or the UI tests can be automated and that can be moved ahead in the pipeline, because once the build comes to us, we are already we know that nothing straightforward can break. So that we can probably focus on those edge cases and the user specific journeys, like how is the customer going to use it. And especially when I say that, in the CRM space, how it works is it's not like a one product line working alone, right? We are like integrating product suites. So there are a lot of workflows which are cutting across different product lines, and there are too many integration points. So those are those integration points, and how the user navigates those integration points, and we give a seamless experience to user. That is where we bring in a lot of difference, or bring in our expertise, the domain expertise, the user experience, and then the customer data. So one more thing that we are focusing on is trying to replicate the customer configuration. So Salesforce has a lot of partners and customers. And a lot of customization is available.
Yeah.
So we look at what are the most used customizations or configurations and replicate those environments, and we test on those. So that has been our focus area, because there are umpteen number of combinations. We cannot focus. We cannot, from a coverage perspective, you cannot cover everything, and that doesn't make sense also, right? It takes a lot of time, and it may not make sense also. So from that perspective, what we do is focusing on those most used customer journeys and customer workflows, and focusing on them, testing them, and then bringing up that value. So I guess one point that Chandrashekhar told, which I could also very much relate, is the data that is available, from the customer data that is available. It's really used well. And we also have, certain ways in which we look at the customer defects and, use AI to derive some patterns out of it. So that is also another way we look at things, so that we know we can replicate, okay, this is something which we really need to replicate, or we need to focus on for our next, feature of our next release, basically.
Yeah. You mentioned that, when you receive the build, the straightforward cases, probably smoke test cases, sanity test cases are already tested and would work. Has that really happened? In my experience, there are times when you wait for a decent build for weeks before QA could actually start testing very effectively.
Yeah.
I mean, in your experience, is that changing?
It is improving. I wouldn't say we are yet there, or it's not perfect or ideal yet, but it's definitely improving. It's not like earlier. Of course, the basic scenarios or the API endpoints are definitely covered. Now, I guess, again, the problem comes, or the challenge comes, where we look at like, how would the customer exactly execute this workflow this way? Or are these the only endpoints? Are these only the, responses that should be taken care of? So that is where the difference is. I would say, like, compared to whatever was earlier, there might be like 30 to 40% improvement is there in when the bill comes to us. But definitely there is further scope for improvement.
So how I look at it is very similar, but the onus on quality is no longer with the QA team, especially with AI coming in, right? So I think as an organization, if the culture is that the quality lies with the entire engineering team, then it's much easier to convince the other teams to adopt it. And then QA teams become an enabler. Right? So that is when we do that successfully, I think it's going to add a lot of value.
Yeah. At the end of the day, QA can only identify issues. Right. I mean, not really ensure quality. I mean, you can only highlight the level, state of quality, state of product. Yeah. Sorry.
So I said, like, at redBus we have something called as zero defect program. So what we do is we are supposed to ensure that all the test cases that are required for particular features, right, are upfront provided to the dev team, so that when they test, they are not really looking at it from a responsibility, but then they know the varieties that a test engineer would actually end up testing. So in that sense, it makes their life easier, where they need to be able to design or program for those specific cases as well, which probably would be left out during solutioning. So that is how, when the quality of the build is dropped to QA, it's improving.
Yeah, basically you collaborate upfront and work with them and ensure that their view is more holistic and any holes are plugged away quite upfront in the cycle. Yeah. Thank you. I think that is quite helpful. And this question is to you, Chandrashekhar, specifically. You're actively moving QE towards a more AI-driven practice at redBus. What has surprised you most during that journey? I'm sure there are surprises. So, is there anything that you can talk about?
So pleasantly surprised by the speed, of course, right? So I think what also is required is we need to unlearn a lot. Like, as technology has evolved, earlier, it was like the approach was never unlearning, because all of them were kind of evolutionary, right? If you look at like moving from manual to automation, was never about unlearning. So you had manual test cases and you automate them, which is the next step, right? But with AI, I think you need to unlearn your traditional ways. Of course, again, depends on where the organization is in the AI adoption space. But then if you really want to extract the maximum value out of AI, I think you need to unlearn and not retrofit AI into every phase of the software development cycle, but from first principles, build those tools. I think that approach is like, when we started adopting, this is what surprised us. The first phase of AI adoption that we tried to do was like just like anybody else, like figure out, okay, where all I can put in AI to make it faster, right? But then that will only give you an incremental value. But if you really want to extract the juice out of it, I think we need to step back and look at the cycle, because most of these processes are built in a way humans were doing the work, right? So now actually, if you remove that limitation and put in agents, I think that is going to give you a substantial value. I think that is the surprising part, which is like every other technology, it was more evolutionary. Because this is revolutionary, I think we need to really unlearn before we can actually adopt. I think that is one big learning for me.
Yeah, and where it matters the most, possibly.
Correct. The ability to pick those areas.
Yeah, and I have heard that people, those who tried to use it initially to get the reviews done, they didn't think through and when agent gave comments that reversed, its previous comments, then they found out that the solution was not robust enough, had to roll back and things like that. I think more well thought out, robust approach would, really help make best out of AI. Yeah, thank you, Chandrashekhar. So next one. So we have these coding assistants and IDEs. They can now generate test cases along with the code. Where do they genuinely help, and where do enterprises, still need deeper testing intelligence, beyond, generated test scripts out of IDEs?
Yeah, I can take it. So
Yeah.
the unit tests or the major functional tests is where I guess the test script generation can really help, because they are very straightforward cases, and we can prompt or train the AI to generate it in a very efficient way and a faster way, obviously, because that becomes really, really fast. But when it comes to the other aspects, some of the non-functional aspects, you take security, or you take performance and at scale, or even the critical user journeys that I talked about earlier, the end-to-end customer workflows. That is where I guess we would need deeper intelligence, because there it's not just about the efficiency and speed of AI that matters. A lot more of the business, the domain context, the user data, or how the user would use it. All these come into picture, and not everything is very straightforward or probably recorded in a way that AI is easy to consume for AI, right? Right now it's all raw, it is scattered, data is scattered, and data is raw also. So to get everything together in one place in a very consumable way for AI is going to be a challenge for us to get that deeper intelligence, because unless we get this right now, if you ask me about the critical user journeys, we are not yet confident to give that to AI. We still go about it, we write code for that. We have our, the observability reports that we check, what about the production failures, when are they failing, is there any pattern? So all these are still heavily driven, a lot more of human insights, so human judgment is needed, because we know that, okay, there are certain ways maybe the customer uses it. So, and also the other point is if people move around, if the person who has that context, the engineer who has the context moves around also, it becomes really tough at this point of time. So those kind of challenges is where we should train AI in such a way that it can bring in deeper and more long-term benefits. Right now, these short-term benefits of the unit tests and functional tests are definitely there. To get it in the longer term, we need to probably invest more and understand how we can utilize AI. So we are not yet there. Probably we are still figuring out how we can get there. We are in that process, in that journey, but just taking baby steps there is what I would say.
Yeah, and when you say critical customer journeys, obviously they'll not be limited to one component or one module. They cut across possibly several processes, several applications. And that is where enterprise context comes in.
Yes.
And
that's where I guess right now AI is not able to penetrate there. But probably I see maybe in the near future which would be there.
Absolutely. I think AI would also evolve.
Yes.
But there would be something or the other that AI cannot solve, I think. So it is a chase. Let's see.
AI can also hallucinate.
Yeah,
so I mean, it can give a lot of false positives.
Yes.
So that is definitely, I guess, one thing we've always been, surprised about or confused about AI is that about the consistency. Because sometimes it can be 100% accurate, but sometimes it can also do the other way, flip totally. So identifying that consistency pattern or reaching those consistency levels that we really need is going to be a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have come quite a distance, I think, especially in 2026. We have been talking about it for probably 3 years, but this is a year when a lot is being applied, and there is some noise, or there is quite a bit of noise, but at the same time, something is emerging as well. I think it's going to be a major wave anyway, and those who can surf will be able to manage this big wave, I think.
Yeah, things are changing. Things are changing pretty fast. Like if we look back on last year, actually we did design a new complete framework which is agentic based, etc. And by the time we took to design it and did a POC and we figured out things are working, there was ADK already out. So so the speed at which it is evolving is, again, like connecting back to your previous question, is a surprise angle, right? So and just adding to Sobhitha's point, I think the IDEs are good at the code part and the unit test, like mentioned, right? But currently, a lot of testing also is tribal knowledge. Like even though you have test cases, you actually end up doing a lot more exploratory when you're actually doing it, right? So converting this into the, like, what I'd like to call as a QA brain, right? For an organization, if anybody is able to build a brain and that is leveraged, I think that would be the next evolution of these tools.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Moving on to my next question. So when an enterprise looks at AI-led testing, autonomous testing, what should drive the decision, whether they should build, buy, or partner? How relevant is that question? What is changing there? Any thoughts, Sobhitha? Or
build, buy, or
Chandrasekhar?
partner, is it? I guess probably partnering is the way out, because not all enterprises have the expertise in AI, that level of the depth of expertise in AI to go ahead and start things from the scratch. Like how he told, by the time you do a POC, the technology is already evolved and something else is coming. So, and AI sometimes, it works beautifully in POCs. But when we try to scale is where everything starts failing, and then we are like, we try to figure that out, try to resolve those failures, etc. So I believe partnering is best, provided the privacy and the security constraints or those guardrails are met. Building probably is an option if an enterprise has the level of expertise. Of course, the cost factor and the cost and resource factor is also there, as AI is very resource intensive. So if the expertise, cost, and also the speed at which it's expected to deliver, all three are coming together, and that kind of capability is there with the enterprise or the organization, of course they can build. But otherwise, my suggestion would mostly to be on a partnering mode, which I guess most of the organizations already, like if you take many of the big organizations, they are already doing it in some way or the other, right? So that kind of means a win-win for both the organizations. The AI product org which you are partnering with them, also for them that is their sales, and then for us, like for any other organization who partners with them, we are getting the benefits out of using that, implementing those tools in our ecosystem.
Yeah.
So traditionally, at least at redBus and especially in the QA engineering team, we have been of the approach of build versus buy. As long as the tool that we are looking at buying has something that we are not able to build within ourselves, right? So, and for most of the AI tools, I think context is something that is really, really important. Unless there's a easier way to actually get all the context together, predominantly using the techniques that any tool would do now, like all the MCPs out of are there, right? So it's more of leveraging them. We have been taking the approach of build. Right, but again, like Sobhitha actually mentioned, it's a cost, right? Cost versus time. As long we are okay to build it, as long as it has the value at the end of the day. And if there are tools which are able to do it right off the shelf, then we also would partner. So that's how we are looking at things.
So basically, the ROI matters, and whether those tools are able to deliver value. I mean, that part of thing probably hasn't changed as yet much. So moving on to my next question, and to you, Sobhitha. With AI-powered customer experience, how do you test not just whether an answer is correct, but whether it is actually useful, appropriate, and trustworthy for the customer?
Interesting. So we had done a lot of customer related, like we had a lot of experiences, customer escalations also regarding this. Obviously, when it comes to the AI generated answers and some of these agent related things, we go with deep evals for the test. So we look at accuracy, like how accurate the answer is. Sometimes the answer might be correct but may not be relevant exactly for the customer or the question that is being asked, right? So we have our grounding technique. So we check groundedness and accuracy. These are two things we definitely look at. And we try to, mostly we use deep evals. It's like basically one LLM testing another LLM, right? So we have our in-house LLMs developed, which is like testing the whatever we are giving to the customers. And specific cases, I guess, with respect to customer service, specifically, these are scenarios like resolution and escalation are two things that we really look at. One is like, when do we say that actually an AI agent has resolved an issue? Has it really been resolved or not? Or if the customer is happy or not? That's one thing we look at from a resolution perspective. And second thing, from an escalation perspective, like when does the AI agent decide that it doesn't have enough information or this needs human intervention? Otherwise, things may go out of hands. Like, the customer may not be happy with that. So these are two areas which we are been heavily focusing on. And then I told you about the accuracy and the groundedness, right? So these are things that we basically test from a CRM perspective.
Yeah. So ultimately, whether the customer is happy or not.
Yes,
that's
feedback.
What matters.
The feedback is what is that determines a lot of things. Plus, of course, I mean, from our end, like the semantics of the answers, like whether it really makes sense or not, those are also, the accuracy is also tested.
Yeah. But how do you know whether the customer is happy or not? Is that through a separate channel or?
No, so those are instant ones. Like, we don't look at like post surveys and all that because it's too instant, because it's faster now. And if the feedback loop is longer, of course, it doesn't make any sense,
it
right?
Won't
so
work
it won't work. So it is all instant. Like, we have different ways of looking at, even with, emojis or reactions, right? Something like simple things rather than going with a longer survey or question answer kind of thing. That's what we look at.
Okay. Thank you. So this is mostly a little bit going into the future. As software creation becomes faster, more AI assisted, how should QE teams evolve? From finding defects to building continuous confidence, across the software life cycle. There was a time when people had a feel for the code. They would know who has written. I mean, a lot of judgment, I think, was applied, knowing their own teams, etc. Now, it's no more written by people. It is written by the code itself. So in this context, how should QE teams evolve? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I guess so far QE teams have always been like evaluators or assessors of things, right? Like, we test a product or an application and try to break it, try to find the issues. So from that mindset, I guess we go into a more of like from an auditing mindset, we are going into a more of an enabled mindset. We have how it works in Salesforce is each of our engineers, they are embedded in the product teams very closely. They work with the Scrum teams and they enable the developers also to do the initial rounds of testing, so that whatever comes to us is at least a baseline is maintained, right? Then how do we build on it and add that extra trust factor? So I guess trust, security, performance, these are the other areas which QE should also think about rather than just about the functionality. And with AI coming into picture, it's no more like yes or no, right? It's not like this is passing or this is failing. So okay, this giving an answer, is it accurate enough? Or is it accurate enough for that particular context and for that particular customer? So that is where that mindset change or mindset shift has to happen. From that evaluators to enablers is what I would say. Like probably something like a trust architect or so is what I'll say. Because so far we were looking at quality from a whether it works or not lens. Now we have to look at quality from more of a are we gaining the customer trust, or are they is there any security or privacy breach happening, and is our output consistent, is it really serving the outcome of the customer? So these are the aspects that we need to kind of shift into as from a QE perspective.
Yeah, so there is a lot more to be done.
Yes.
Because there are more dimensions being added.
Yes.
I think earlier people talked about, when they talked about testing, they generally meant functional testing. And when they had to do non-functional testing, it was emphasized.
Yes.
And there would be a separate and relatively a smaller team.
Yes.
But I think now it becomes everyone's responsibility.
Yeah, it's all embedded, and it's shared ownership also. And
shared.
another thing what I wanted to bring out is like we also think about, like earlier it was like whether this goes out or works or not. Now we also think, well, in case it doesn't work, in case it doesn't satisfy the customer, is it behind a feature flag? Can we turn it off for them? Yeah. Is there an option? So these are the things which we also probably have started thinking about, right? Earlier, probably that is not something what QE was bothered about or QE would think about. But right now, we also ask, I guess, the art of questioning on the whys and the hows of why the software was built. That is something which I guess that questioning, that curiosity is something which will definitely help QE go a longer way. Because the developer will always have a certain mindset when he develops the application. We are trying to question that, or like to probably add some more perspectives to that. So our perspectives is what matter, and how will that perspective come unless we question further, dig deeper and try to understand who was this built for, why, how was this built, and why was this built. So if all these questions are answered, then I guess we will have that trust that the product can go out and it can be, serve the customer well.
Yeah, the curiosity aspect wouldn't change. Probably it has to further evolve. So
completely agree to Sobhitha, but I'd like to add one more thing. So I think QA team is going to evolve. Like we have DevOps now. I think QA would become a QA Ops, where over a period of time, I think QA would evolve to build tools, look at risk assessments, look at solutioning, look at the way let's say if you're using a cursor, what's there in the plan, right? Yeah. Rather than looking at the flows, you build these capabilities. So if you're able to figure out how evaluate the prompt, let's say a prompt is being used by a developer, or let's say there are rules that are being used, can you contribute to it, right? Like, you will also need to embed yourself in the product teams, look at how evals are being built, contribute to evals, look at golden data sets that are actually getting used, right? So can you contribute there? I think our role is going to be a lot more expanded, and what we do today is going to be business as usual, autonomous, and agents are going to take over. But then these are the newer areas that we should probably looking at contributing to. I think that's also...
And there will be a lot more emphasis on those areas, given that, the amount of code generated and not written by humans. That is helpful. I think I like this QA Ops along the lines of DevOps.
Correct.
People haven't really thought about it. And there are people who think that their jobs would go away.
Yeah.
But I think there will be more to do. Of course, there would be things that would be done by agents. As you said, I think business as usual stuff would be done by agents. But then there are things that agents may not be able to do, or until such time agents are able to do. There are more things to do. Thank you. So this is probably, again, if you were to give a piece of advice to QE leaders preparing their teams for the next 5 years, what would that be? What advice would you give?
Very similar to my past responses. Like, I think we need to really look out for the higher order work, right? So we need to move up the value chain, which is right now, like QA team is looked at the last thought in the planning, right? From a delivery perspective. I think we have a much bigger role to play, and we need to embed ourselves much earlier in the game. Right? So unless QA leaders are able to mobilize their team to do it, bring in that curiosity within the engineers to question the design decisions, understand the functioning, right? So I think that is something that we have to do, because unless you understand those aspects, it's very difficult for you to really add any more value, which a unit test would probably take away your job if you look at it that way, right? And the second part is we should look at what is happening in production, because earlier there were fixed set of use cases, right? A browser application would probably work in a certain manner, but then you open it for chat, the end customer, how he's using it is going to be very different from what you have thought is a test case, right? So while we need to shift left, which is get involved earlier during the designing, solutioning, planning phase, I think you also need to shift right, which is post-production, look at the data and then analyze, because that is the feedback. Earlier, let's say our test cases were all static. Now you need to look at, like for example, let's say we have a chatbot. How are customers using it? What are the failure points where, let's say, even the evals are failing, right? So then bring that back to the golden data set that we are actually using. And also, in our case, we also, like very similar to what Sobhitha mentioned, is we use LLM to test an LLM product, right? But then that's a judge. Now you need to be aware that there are also biases available there, right? So you have to be smarter enough to use different models, look at different ways the biases can be removed, do multi-turn conversations, right? So I think there's a lot more to do, and business as usual needs to be kept out. And I think it's a leader's job to channel this to the team, because while the team today is looking at releases, how do I deliver? I think they do not have the time to think about the bigger things, and it's a leader's job to give that vision to the team. I think that's important.
Yeah, no, I mean, that resonates with me. See, I hear this at times, right? There are issues that are produced in the field. I mean, there are defects identified by users in the field. And when they are reported, the immediate reaction of engineering teams is that it is not reproducible. And it is as good as saying to the one who is reporting, you are saying, no, it is no issue. There is no issue. So when I play it back to the team, then they realize, what is their error. Okay, it may not be immediately reproducible. Is there a way to, reproduce it? If not now, at least when it occurs next, will I be able to find that out, catch that out as to which piece of code really caused that error? I mean, that kind of thinking, when it, then there is ownership, and then they will also have much bigger role to play.
So just to add to that, like giving an example. So today we have apps in the field, and we see some crashes happening, right, on the consumer apps. So what we have built is now a tool which looks at your Firebase, looks at the crash, and then traces back what the user had done, because we have a lot of analytics. And then we use, let's say, an Appium MCP to actually do those steps on our app. More often than not, the devices that we test are not on those devices that actually the crashes are reproduced.
Absolutely.
So then we have the device labs, right? Like whether a browser stack or a Lambda test. So we're able to now route these scripts on those devices, pick up on which device this crash was reported. Because fundamentally, if we had to do this ourselves, a normal engineer would actually pick it up, try to test it. Oh, I'm not able to reproduce a crash. But now if you have to actually look at the steps and make an automation script out of it, which will actually run on multiple devices, I think that is where we need to move. Otherwise, it's easier to move now, given that we have all the tools.
And in a way, it is not about automation. It is also about simulation. Simulate customer scenarios. Imagine and be able to simulate those scenarios in different contexts. In this case, a device lab is helping simulate those scenarios. Obviously, when you are in India, in different corners of India, then which device people use and what are the network conditions? I mean, unless you are able to simulate, you will not be able to test things thoroughly. Yeah, absolutely. We had similar conversations in the context of in the context of retail, in the context of digital commerce. People would say, I'm done with my testing. And this some time ago, some 2-3 years ago, people would ask back, have you simulated 2G scenario, 3G scenario? Why are you only talking about, advanced conditions, right? Will it work under constraints, significant constraints? Yeah.
And it also depends on what and for whom the product is made. Like our app is used across tier 3, tier 4.
Yeah.
It's a travel app, so you would probably be booking a ticket when you're traveling. So low network conditions. So all those things need to be actually part of your testing.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. What would you add?
Yeah, I guess the system thinking is what one skill I guess everybody has to, because it's no more about that particular app or that particular feature or module that you're testing. And I guess another thing also, like he told, persona-based testing is something which we focus big time on, especially in the CRM space. I guess not just CRM, because different users have different, access rights or like conditions and permissions, right? Even some of these apps, whatever, like their securities, right? Whatever we allow or permissible and non-permissible things will be there, right? While different conditions, while we use the app, or like you have an overall permission set for the that particular user. So different things. And now, since I'm a parent, I can also tell about parental controls as well, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot that we have seen that we tried making it work, and sometimes it doesn't work as expected. You get frustrated because you give the phone to I have a teenager at home. So I give him the phone. So obviously I have all the controls set. But sometimes, though it's expected to work, some things don't work. So that's why, the user frustration really, and those are very practical scenarios. And in today's world, I guess, the user base is like the age, the demography, everything changes, right? So that kind of a system thinking is one skill I guess we cannot avoid, or like that's going to be very, very critical. And probably also the data literacy, like what data are we using, is it really valuable data or valid data, and does it have like ethical or compliance or bias related confusions or complications. These two things, I guess, the data literacy and the system thinking are two things I would say that will definitely hold good and will be like probably a niche skill or a differentiator when it comes to anybody who's like, who wants to succeed in the upcoming AI space.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are some situations that we have seen, things like, so after the product is shipped, let's say radiologists are using, at that point in time, certain things wouldn't work. Simplest of things like password. Here, people would have tested it, by copying and pasting from a spreadsheet, whereas the radiologist may copy paste it from a CSV file, and things won't work. It could be as simple as that, right? Unless you know the end user's behavior, and this could vary, vary from region to region, from based on the demography as well. And so, unless you have that holistic view, you will not know, and you may say, people may even trivialize, I didn't catch it, but in the way they respond, it's as good as saying it's okay if I don't catch it, because I didn't know that.
And I guess one more thing that I wanted to add here is, like, right now with the AI, I guess there are a lot of blurring lines between roles. Like you say, product management or developer, tester. Now you can't limit yourself. You cannot define a boundary for your role. Anybody can actually, vibe code an application, right? You need not be like really tech savvy or anything. As long as you have, the knack to interact with that particular AI or the LLM and then get it to do things, you can. So there are like, that customer point of view, the coding point of view, or even the, that how to break a system, all the points of view, perspectives come together. So you can't say that you are just, I'm just limited committed to this. This is my role. This is my boundary. I'm only doing this. I don't think that's going to work in the future. You have to be really like nimble and adaptable and get to all the areas and try to do an overall job, so that probably that is where you will add real value to any system.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yep. I have a few, rapid fire questions. And answers are probably already there, but still, let me go ahead. AI generated code, is that an opportunity or a risk?
It's an opportunity with higher accountability.
Yeah.
So you need to manage the risk of it, but as long as you're able to do it, it's definitely an opportunity.
Yeah, I think that accountability part is very important. I think. So we can't assign that to LLMs. I think it is still the developer, the tester who has to take that accountability. Thank you for bringing that out. So your perspective, AI generated code, opportunity or risk?
I guess opportunity with added risk or heavier risk than earlier.
Yeah.
Which again, as he told, the ownership needs to be managed.
Yeah. So I don't know whether you relate to this. Earlier, there used to be developers that took longer time to develop, and I don't mean anything negative to developers, but they would take longer to develop, and there used to be very little time for testing. And now you have probably more time to test, but a lot more to test than what did you have. So I think there is a added risk. The test gaps that earlier existed would be now multiplied, I think, by several factors.
Yeah, and the way to circumvent that, I think, getting the QA mindset not only to the QA department, but as engineering as a whole.
You mentioned that in the beginning itself.
Right. So if you do that, then I think everybody who is using an AI product, right, say whether it is to design, whether it's to code, if there are guardrails built that they are able to do human review, figure out whether it is the right thing or not, then I think that risk reduces.
You made that point upfront. I noticed that. Yeah. Thank you. One word to describe the future of QE.
Orchestration. I guess it's more of like multiple systems or multiple products and applications, or even multi-role. I would say it's like a more of an orchestrating role. We are trying to blend or get everything together and get it to a possible or a practical outcome.
Yeah. So ultimately, one behaves more like an architect.
Yes.
And not just a developer or a test engineer. Your response, one word to describe the future of QE.
I think it's QA ops.
QA ops. Yeah.
Enabling, we become the enabler for quality across the...
And beyond the erstwhile definition of QA. Yeah. So, will manual testing disappear? Yes, no, or it depends?
I don't think it will disappear. I think still it is required because, like I said, there's a lot of tribal knowledge. Exploratory is still required, while you could allow the heavy lifting of a lot of use cases to be done. But I think that human interaction is required as an end user.
Yeah. No,
I guess I also agree with that. Probably the amount of manual tests will come down, of course. But as he told, exploratory, the very thing that we call that the human in the loop for AI, that's very much needed. Without the human in the loop, I guess AI can literally go haywire. So we need that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Are there any questions from the audience? There is a question. If AI helps teams release software faster, what should QA teams change first to maintain quality? That is one question.
I guess he already talked about the QA first mindset in the developers and across the board. That's one thing. And the other thing is, I guess, rather than maybe shifting further left, like getting involved from that design phase and raising those right questions. And also, I guess one more thing what I felt is like with the volume of code we have, like earlier we have these regression suites running. Some of these suites take like forever, like quite long. Now, like maybe 5 or 6 hours to run and give us an output, like, give the results. That is no longer, it really doesn't serve the purpose with the speed at which we are going. So more change related or impact related tests, right? If we have that intelligence to pick only those tests and run those, so that we reduce the feedback loop. That is very, very important. Unless we reduce the feedback loop, I guess we won't be able to match the pace.
Yeah.
And just to add to her point, I think the reason we run regression is to ensure that nothing is broken, right? So now, because it takes time, you could actually superimpose the user behavior on it, thereby reduce. Like, one is impact, one is risk, and one is probably the most used use cases instead of really running everything.
Yeah, she said critical customer journey. Yeah. You also talked about use cases that matter to the user.
Correct. Anything which is, let's say, fundamentally revenue related, right? Especially in our case, or let's say, very well put is critical user journeys.
Yeah. But even otherwise, we heard earlier in the conversation that, while certain things are shifted to the left, QE also has an opportunity to do things in production, post-production, right? And Chandrashekhar also talked about QA ops, right? So there are more things to do, and those are essential to maintain the quality when the code is released, faster. There is another question, probably I missed the first one, at the top. If autonomous agents take over most of today's testing activities, what should QE own in the future that AI agents cannot or should not own? I think that is also very much answered already.
Yes.
Yeah. If you have any follow-up question, Sangeeta, Pinaj, please bring that up. Is there any other question? Okay, so I'll move on to go back to my rapid fire. Sorry, there is one more question from Jenish. You mentioned system thinking and persona-based testing. How can QE teams practically build these scenarios into their testing strategy rather than treating them as edge cases?
I can give an example for persona-based testing, probably you can add. So, for example, let's say we are doing a chatbot, which we use for self-help, right? For the customers who have booked ticket with us. Now, while we generally, what we do is we test it asking questions in a manner that we are linguistically superior, right? But the way our customers use is not like that. Like, for example, the person who is trying to interact with self-help on a redBus app is possibly either frustrated because of an issue. Right? He's not going to type in grammatically correct sentences, right? And these are used in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities. So probably their grammar is not right. They're using English and Hindi together, right? You need to look at past self-help, like in our case, right? For this specific product, we looked at how customer interactions have happened. What are the key areas that they're trying to answer? Then you need to leverage LLM and synthetically generate these queries, putting these personas in place. So that makes it's no longer an edge case. I don't think we have anything called as edge cases now, right? Yeah. So I think that is how you can have persona-based testing within your test cases from day one. I think, again, it goes back to the same fact that you need to put yourself in the customer's shoes, figure out what are the pain points, how is that product helping them, and what could be the issues that they're going to face, rather than just looking at the system design and write your test cases. I think that's how you can have it, probably.
I read out one more question. How can we balance speed of delivery with confidence in quality when businesses are under constant pressure to release faster?
Yeah, I think what to test and when to test, I think that's a more harder decision now, given that you have got so many changes. I think earlier, at least in a lot of companies, you have to have the dev is to QA ratio, 4:1, 4 devs, 1 QA. Yeah. I think now it's actually exploded, right? 4 developers are kind of doing 16 developers kind of work with AI. Yeah. So the pressure is going to be there. So it is how smart you are to figure out what is the impact for those changes. Don't look at black box testing.
Yeah.
You have to probably pull in the AMRs, leverage LLM to figure out what is the change, where is the impact. So in fact, within redBus, we have built something called as impact sense. So we look at code bases based on the change, based on what function is calling whom, and then we are able to assess this is the change which is required to be tested. I think that's the way to look forward. It's still under POC, but I think that is the way forward, because everybody faces this. We face this ourselves, right? So the question is how you are able to pick your right test cases which can be executed in that time.
Given a change. Yeah, absolutely. So that the developer can execute them. Even, as you pointed out earlier, shift left, they themselves will be able to identify test cases that need to be tested before the build is released to QA.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that all? Yeah. So I will move forward with a few more questions. What is harder, generating tests or knowing what to test?
Knowing what to test, of course. Generating tests is very easy with AI.
Yeah, absolutely. One testing metric that is overrated, Sobhitha.
Be coverage.
Yeah.
I guess coverage is no longer that important. It's about what you cover. Like, it's not about like the entire, like, are you really having code coverage or the test coverage? Are you really running an very extensive regression suite? That doesn't matter anymore. It's about what is really important.
Yeah. No, we have cases where, requirements are, they have not kept pace with the changes in the application. Requirements are quite behind. Requirement document is quite behind, outdated. It doesn't have everything that is in the application. So having simple, requirements to
traceability
code
metrics.
traceability might not help at all, unless you take steps to really understand what has been built, whether it is tested really or not. Again, I think it goes back to knowing what to test.
Yes.
And not just, maybe coverage against what to test.
Once you've decided what to test, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. One testing metric that deserves more attention.
I think defect reduction as a ratio, right? So especially in this day and age, I think we need to be focused a lot more on that, because with these products, I think that would increase. And if we do not have sight on it, then we might think what we are doing is right. So I think that is what we should look for.
I guess more than defect reduction, probably defect prevention. And like we're trying to look at from a leakage perspective also, and the quality of an application or code should be determined by how less we are able to find the defects, right? Because that means we are shifting further left and we are preventing rather than finding defects and then fixing them.
Yeah. So, one challenge even today I see is that defects found in the field, that knowledge, unless somebody is very conscious, that knowledge is not with the engineering teams.
So that's,
I hope you agree.
yes.
So they miss that critical information. I keep telling people, I don't know what is the right language. Do you track defects slipped? There is, people say, don't call it defects slipped until you are sure that they are defects.
Correct.
But that apart, if you know what issues are reported from the field, then you can do proper root cause analysis. Maybe some are due to infrastructure, some are due to data, which is still a problem, right? So how to get access to that kind of data so that you can have them detected upfront.
Correct.
In the engineering phase. I think there is not enough. Everyone who talks about testing talks about coverage.
Correct.
And not talk about, I think, defects.
So there used to be this term called DRE, defect removal efficiency.
In the
earlier days, but I think it's not got its due.
Yeah.
I think
People talked about, I think, Six Sigma and all.
Yeah.
They talked a lot about
it applies a lot in the manufacturing industry and all of those industries, but I think very much here as well. Because if that focus is built in, I think it'll really.
Absolutely. Yes. So AI assisted testing or autonomous testing, which will scale faster?
Assisted. I mean, scale is important, but then the side effects also need to be kept in mind. So I think if you look at scale with zero side effects, I think it has to be AI assisted rather than handing over everything to autonomous testing.
Yeah.
Yes, totally agree. Because it can go flip to the other side as well. If it is always autonomous, it can be intelligent, but it will still need that human review at maybe periodically somewhere. So then it becomes assisted.
Yeah, sure. What is one thing QE teams should stop doing?
Yeah, not reproducible. Saying that
defects are not reproducible. Saying no to issues.
Or probably also in the current context that we are not unable to match the pace. That's no more an excuse, right? Or we cannot afford to make that. So we need to find ways to match the pace of the developers.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, just as much developers have tools.
Yes.
QE also has tools, and just use the tools.
We have the same tools.
Yeah, same tools. Absolutely. Yeah. What is one skill every QE professional should build now?
I told you about system thinking. I guess,
I think
it's stuck in my mind as well.
User empathy.
Yeah, user empathy. Absolutely. I think so not design of the system, not coming from design perspective, but coming from user's perspective. Complete the sentence. The future of testing will be
fun.
I also think so. I mean, 2026, if you're afraid of change, then I think it'll put you on a back foot. But otherwise, if you really want to ride the wave, you have very big waves and you will have a lot of fun, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
So yours?
Yeah, I guess pretty much it'll be a lot of learning.
Yeah. Which is
much more than what we have now, or at a much faster pace, probably.
Absolutely. And learning should be fun. So with that, I think I have one more question for you. Salesforce has complex configurations, customizations, integrations, and frequent releases. I think this for you, Sobhitha. How do you see AI changing the way Salesforce QA teams approach regression testing?
Okay. I guess AI already has changed the way. Changing would be an understatement. So I guess most of our regression tests or everything is already in an assisted mode, and we leverage AI as much as possible. To some extent, there is some self-healing is also available. But again, I go back to my previous statement of we need not run extensive regression. So how it is changing now is how choosy we are, how we are prioritizing the cases that we really need to run, and how we are reducing the feedback loop all the time. Otherwise, earlier whatever used to run for 6 hours, 8 hours, now it's minutes because it's that fast. So we really need to pick and choose the tests and then run them. That is the way I guess regression tests has really changed now.
Yeah. Thank you, Sobhitha. Thank you, Chandrashekhar. Thanks for being with us, and it was a wonderful conversation that I enjoyed. AlgoShack being a testing company, autonomous testing company, this mattered a lot to us. And thanks for joining us. Thanks everyone who joined us today. Have a great evening, and we'll be back again next month with our 6th Fireside Chat episode. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.